one of the hardest things to do is to do this, but I knew for a long time I wanted to talk about my daddy. I'm blown away by everybody that's here, by the stories, the funny stories, the serious stories. I thank y'all for coming, and for all those that are online that couldn't join us today but joined online. My daddy was a very special dad. I know not everybody is privileged to have a father so wonderful, but I'm blessed. I'm blessed with both parents. They taught me well, and I'm very, very thankful for that. My dad was adopted. I don't know if most of y'all knew that. My dad and his brother Tommy was both adopted. They were adopted by an elderly couple. I knew this my whole life. A while back, I asked my dad if he would mind giving a DNA sample so we can find out who his real parents were. And he agreed. And I started digging into ancestry, spent a lot of time trying to figure it out. And then I asked my dad, would he be okay if we got his adoption papers? If we at least tried. Didn't know if it was possible, didn't know what was allowed, what wasn't. He agreed. We got his adoption papers 2 days before he passed. And I'm so thankful. I'm thankful that he gave me that gift.
Yes, amen.
And it's a beautiful love story. You know, sometimes when you're adopted, you don't know the reasons behind it. And it's scary. And I was nervous about doing it because I didn't want to find out something that would hurt my dad. And that was the reason why I hesitated. But I wanted that last gift. And I did. And I wanted to tell you a beautiful love story. I just found out this week, or last week. His mama was a very poor woman here in Louisville, not married. His daddy was a very rich man here in Louisville. I'm not too sure that the daddy ever knew that he was born. My dad was born with a lot of health problems, very sick child. It said he was very sickly. Mama tried to take care of him. A month and a half in, she finally gave him to the children's home here in Louisville because she wanted a better life for him. She wanted to give him a chance for something that she couldn't give him. He was unable to be adopted because he had such severe health problems. The papers even said that he was mentally and physically retarded. We would never know that. He overcame so much. I knew that he was sick. I know he had a lot of health issues. A lot of stuff never even came up in adulthood, heart issues and stuff that he never dealt with in adult. But he was unadoptable. But there was an elderly couple who loved kids that was Pentecostal. And they would foster kids for many years until they fostered Tommy, and who is here today on the front row, and they fostered my daddy. They loved my daddy. They protected him. At first, and they got him when he was about 1 year old. They continued to take care of him. About 2 years in, they asked the court system if they could have a 21-year agreement that they could take care of him for 21 years, full responsibility, and that they would take full responsibility care of him. They agreed. They were granted that. About 2 years later, or approximately that, they asked to adopt him because they loved him so much. The court system had to go back to the mama to terminate the mama's rights. The mama was so happy to know that my dad was doing well. She loved him. And they asked her if she wanted him, and she says, I'm too poor, I can't do it. I want him to have a life. And he was well taken care of. They were able to financially take care of all his medical issues. They taught him how to play the piano. They taught him how to live. they paid for all his medical bills. Today, we would never know it. None of us would have known it. And I knew he had a lot of medical issues, but until I read it, I never realized the severity of the issues he had to overcome. And I'm so thankful for a Pentecostal mama who said, I love this child, and I'm going to give this child a chance. And she took him to church, and she brought him up in church. And because of that, we're here today. I'm so thankful for that love story. And if there's anything I could tell Daddy, I wish he had known how much he was loved by his mama, his real mama, and his adopted mama. He was loved. And to know that that love continued to carry down. When my mama married him, she loved him. When they had us, we loved Daddy. It's continued through the years. The one thing that I've heard over and over is how much he was loved by everybody. My dad never met a stranger. He talked a lot. So that's where I got my talking. If you want to know where I talk so much, it's from my daddy. He talked a lot. He was loved by everybody. And that's the power of adoption, the power of love and parents that said, I'm going to take this child who's unadoptable, and I'm going to take this child into my home and love this child. And I wanted to share that. I wish that Daddy had known that. I wish I had gotten it a little bit sooner. I didn't. But maybe when we were talking about it, he heard us. I'm hoping that he heard how much he was loved. And I wanted to share that. On the funny side, I know that's more serious. On the funny side, I'll fast forward a few years. Apparently my daddy, I found out just today, my daddy was a big flirt. I'm just going to say, I didn't know this until today. And I kept saying, you're talking about my daddy? He was a big flirt. So, and I knew that him and Mama had this thing going on, but I didn't know that it was even before then. So anyway, and so one of the things that I found out today that I thought was really funny is that apparently he liked this one girl. You all would know who she is, so I will keep her name safe. Apparently he really liked her, and her favorite color was red. He decided he was going to paint the interior of his car red to try to impress her. I can't imagine it. It happened, and I asked over and over, are you sure that was my daddy who did that? It was. Painted the interior of the car red. I don't get it, but that's my daddy. He wanted this girl. Apparently she didn't like him as much as she liked red. I don't know. But he was a flirt, and I heard that he was always going after the girls. So apparently during the time of the draft, my dad was drafted. He should never have been drafted. He had too many medical issues that should not have been drafted. But he was sent to San Antonio, Texas. There, he must have been a flirt because he met my mama. So it didn't matter what state he was in, he was going to be a flirt. I loved it. So he was in the Army for 3 months. During that time, they noticed that he couldn't march. So obviously he was pulled immediately and then would go through all the medical stuff and all of that. But it was enough to meet my mom. And then there's the travel between San Antonio, Texas and Louisville. And apparently they made several trips back and forth, apparently. My mom had told me that one of those trips that Dad was taken to San Antonio, Texas, the hood of his car fell off. I don't know how, why, I don't know. But it fell off. So he put it in his car and continued driving to San Antonio, Texas to see her. So I guess he really loved her. So then another time, let's fast forward just a little bit, they're dating. They haven't kissed yet.
Oh no.
Yes, oh no, I'm gonna tell it, sorry. They haven't kissed yet. So finally, they were in the car somewhere, I don't know. They kissed. Mama, having a weak stomach, opened up the car door, threw up. She didn't know that Daddy also had a weak stomach. He opened up his car door and threw up. First kiss gone wrong. But I guess they figured it out because they've been married for 53 years and 2 kids later, so I guess they figured it out. So, but I was reminded, I knew this, but I was reminded again tonight, thank you for the person who told me, that somebody decided, that is in here, they decided they wanted to play a trick on mom and dad for their honeymoon night. They put mothballs in their car. Did not go so well. So again, car doors came open and they were throwing out. I don't know. That's all I know. I'll stop there, but obviously they loved each other. Their love lasted 53 years. I hope that we have that legacy, that I can say I've been married for 53 years. And I think that it was because they loved God. God was always first in their life. They always put God first. And I think that's the reason why the marriage worked. Mama likes to say, she always liked to say it was because she always got her way. Probably true. But God was always at the center of our home. And everybody that knows my parents know they were always faithful. They were always there. We were brought up to be there at church. And I've got my dad's Schofield Bible. I remember reading his Schofield Bible when I got bored in church, or the songbook, because that's all we had. We couldn't have toys or anything. But I remember that's how we grew up. We were there. And because we were instilled in that, when life got tough for me the last 2.5 years, one thing that I kept telling God, I said, God, my parents were always faithful to you, and you're faithful to us now. And I'm going to hold on to that promise no matter what happens, no matter what the outcome is, no matter how tough it gets, and no matter what this looks like. I'm going to hold on to you because that's what my parents did, and they taught me well. And it got me through these 2.5 years. It hasn't been easy, but it's because of their faith. And I've reminded God so many times, and especially when they were in hospital beds and stuff, and I would say, God, they were faithful to you. And I'm going to stand on that promise. What a beautiful legacy. Something not many people get to have. So many people in this world doesn't have that, but I had that. My sister had that. We were so blessed to have that in our lives. Fast forwarding, and all my notes are just scattered, but fast forwarding a little bit, one thing I wanted to tell about. So at the end, my dad, his fingers, his skin was tearing and stuff. And so finally my mom had to take off his wedding band because his skin was tearing so bad and it was just kind of keeping it ripped open. And when Mama explained it to him, now mind you, he's a jokester, and everybody knows he's a jokester. He said, well, I guess we're divorced now. I'm like, Dad, no. And so thankfully now my mom put the ring on his finger, and she told him we're still married. So, but above all, he loved his family. Like he said, he loved church. He loved his family. He was always, I know everybody always said he was always talking about you girls. He was talking about when my girls came along. He was always talking about my kids. Anybody that would listen to him was either church or family. It was always, that's just his life. That's what he did. And he loved my girls. And I'm thankful that he was there for the huge majority of all of my kids' events. The births, the birthdays, parties, all the little kids' parties, he always showed up. One of the pictures they showed earlier, he was all decked out and all kinds of crazy stuff that my girls did. But he was always a good sport. And that's another thing about him is that he was a very gentle spirit and just went with the flow of things. He didn't really bulk against things. Even when life was tough, even when he didn't like it, he still went with the flow of things. He was very easygoing and he just kind of accepted what was. And I want to model that more. That's something in me. I wish I was more like that. I'm going to buck the system a little bit more. If I don't like it, I'm going to stay. But he went with the flow of things, and he let Mama go fishing. He let Mama go do things. He was happy just sitting on the couch. He had his poodle. And sweet tea. He's happy and content. And that type of contentment, just that calm, gentle spirit. And in our home, we needed that. Because God knows that, probably me and Mom and even Darlene, we could probably get a little little rowdy. So to have a calm spirit in the home, a gentle spirit that was just always there, I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss the phone calls. He always said, "Hi, baby doll," when he called. I was always called baby doll. My sister, he always told my sister she was found in the dumpster in Alabama. I think she kind of believes that. So I told her, do a DNA sample. You'll figure it out. He's really your daddy. But that's the kind of jokester that he was. You know, he enjoyed joking. He enjoyed, he just enjoyed having a good time. On Darlene's, my sister's wedding day, he kicked her out of the house. He said, "I'm kicking you out of the house now." I mean, you know, took his foot and kind of kicked her and said, "You're on your own now," you know. Poor Charlie. Poor David too, I may say. One other thing that he always did is he always called my sister Bug. I like to say I squashed her, but hey, that's okay. Anyways, he always called my sister a Bug. And right before he passed, a few days, right before he passed, before he would, he had already stopped communicating, and he was just being able to squeeze our hands to get an answer. My sister asked if he still called her Bug, and he squeezed her hand. And it was just a little something for my sister to know that he still had a few more jokes on him. And I'll be honest with you, he joked so much that when he did pass, he was taken, and I wasn't going to share this, but it kind of goes along with it, that when he was actually starting to take his last breath, and then he would start breathing again, and he would stop and breathe again, and I was like, "Daddy, you're just playing another joke on me, aren't you?" I mean, he was taking his last breath. I mean, I shouldn't have done that, but but that was the thing. He was always joking, so I was thinking he was kind of teasing me with thinking that, I was going to have to say goodbye the night and have to say goodbye night, and he was teasing me, but I guess he was kind of being for real. But some of the things that, another thing about him is I had a puppet monkey, this really crazy puppet monkey, that you put your hand in and talk. So at nighttime, he always loved tucking us in. He loved telling us goodnight stories. He used the puppet monkey to tell us stories. For those of us in Kentucky that knows about church camp, that monkey had some good church camp stories. And unfortunately, there was some pastors, Brother Vitito, and some others that fell on the banana peels that the monkey did. I don't know why he chose banana peels and monkeys from church camp, but it kind of goes along with the thing that even in the stories he told, he always brought church into it. He always brought God somehow into it. But then the funny part of just trying to make us giggle and laugh, and we all thought it was a good time. So as he was, right before he passed, I said, "Now, Daddy, go find Brother Vitito and go let him know that hopefully he's okay from all the banana peels he slipped on through the years." So I asked him to go check on him. One last, as I end this, my dad always said that he was an angel. And when he was in the nursing home, he had this cute little angel on his door. It was actually from just a Christmas gift, and my mom just casually put it on the door. But he would always say at the nursing home, he'd said it for years, but at the nursing home he said, "I'm an angel." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, Daddy." He goes, "No, if you don't believe me, just look on the door. It has my name on it. I am an angel." So, and I'm glad my mom gave this to me as a reminder. It's like, Daddy is an angel now. He's in heaven, and he's in a much better place, and I look at him so peaceful, and he's so peaceful now, and that's the way we want to remember him. We want to remember him like that, and I just hope that if you get anything out of it, and I know that you all could tell a lot more funnier stories, but my dad was a good dad, and if anything, I don't understand why he had to go through so much in the more recent years. But I'm so thankful for the time that I had with him. I won't trade it for anything. I've put 70,000 miles on my car in the last 2.5 years. Wouldn't trade 1 mile of it. God protected me the whole way, and I asked God, please protect me, because I want to spend time with my parents. I want to help them out as much as I can. And I get so proud that I did that, And my mom says that she's probably watched more church services online in the last few years than a bunch of church services together, and it's so true. Sundays, we would watch 3 different church services, Jack Cunningham, then we would go to my church, then we would go to this church. And we got plenty of church. But in that, I missed a lot of my church. But getting church with my dad, one-on-one church, and to see him raising his hands and speaking in tongues and worshiping and tears coming through, flowing down his eyes, those are things that I'll always have with me. You know, I could have gone to my church and done all of that, and that would have been fun, and that would have been for me. But to spend that time worshiping with my daddy, I'm forever grateful. Also forever grateful my assistant pastors here. And I'm forever grateful that they allowed me that time away from my church and from that so I could stand with my dad. And I will be forever grateful for that time. And I just hope that you all, when you look at, think back on my dad, you'll think of the good times. And I just think of the good times. That there's a lot of hard times too, and he overcame a lot of it. Remember the good times, the jokes, the teasing. He was constantly teasing. And just remember those times and how good. And if there's anything we can do, it's to draw closer to God. Make God our first priority. Sometimes I tell my kids, they're like, church is your everything. And I'm like, yes, it is, because that's what I was taught. And I hope that I'm instilling just a little bit into my girls what both of my parents, and I know I've mainly talked about my dad, but my mom, in honor of her too, both of my parents instilled a great deal into my life, into my sister's life, and I'm forever grateful. And I just hope that somehow, some way, I am making that type of impact with my girls. Thank you.